From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. Michael Flynn, former national security advisor under ex-President Donald Trump, met with about 35 Muslims in Hamtramck, Michigan this week. The meeting was organized by the city's mayor, Ahmed Ghalib. Flynn, a right-wing conservative, has been associated with the QAnon movement. In the past, he has also made anti-Muslim statements. As well, the Congressional Select Committee on January 6th questioned Flynn about his role in the mob attack on the U.S. Capitol. Critics of Ghalib's meeting with Flynn say it is a sign that he is becoming more aligned with the Republican Party. They also worry that he is connecting himself with dangerous individuals. But Ghalib himself says he is not a supporter of either the Democrats or the Republicans and is merely trying to build bridges with different groups. However, he did accept a donation of more than $7,000 from a political action committee close to Democrats while running for mayor in 2021. He is the first Arab American and first Muslim to lead Hamtramck. Governor Brian Kemp has declared a state of emergency in Georgia, citing inflation and the unfavorable economic situation. The Republican leader attributed the economic crises to the policies of President Joe Biden's administration. As part of the declaration, Kemp suspended the state's excise tax on motor and locomotive fuel to provide direct relief to families. The order went into effect Wednesday and will be in place through October 12th. The excise tax suspension will save Georgians more than 30 cents per gallon on gas and 35 cents on diesel fuel. Kemp says Georgians saved about $1.7 billion when the gas tax was suspended last year from March through December. New York City and Oregon state pension funds have filed a lawsuit against Fox Corporation. It alleges the media giant allowed its Fox News station to broadcast misleading information about the 2020 election. As a result, they say shareholders' investments have been jeopardized. The lawsuit was filed in the Delaware Court of Chancery. It represents a significant shareholder push against Fox since the company paid a record $787.5 million in a defamation settlement with Dominion Voting Systems earlier this year. After the 2020 election, Fox News hosts and guests repeatedly claimed that former President Donald Trump had won. They also promoted conspiracy theories supporting that claim, including the allegation that Dominion's voting machines skewed the votes in favor of President Joe Biden. At the end of July, New York City pension funds held $28.1 million worth of Fox Corporation stock, and Oregon stock totaled $5.2 million at the end of August. Fox faces more defamation lawsuits, notably a $2.7 billion suit by Smartmatic, a company that builds and implements electronic voting systems. Another one relates to conspiracy theories surrounding the January 6 riots at the U.S. Capitol. The Media and Democracy Project recently petitioned the Federal Communications Commission to revoke the broadcast license for Fox 29 Philadelphia. Asian American medical students often face racism and feel neglected in their training environment. That's according to a Yale School of Medicine study led by Dr. David Yang of the school's Department of Emergency Medicine. The impetus for the study was students' personal experiences with racism during the COVID-19 pandemic. At that time, Asian Americans were exposed to prejudice because the virus originated in China. The findings are based on research conducted at 17 medical schools in the United States. The study surveyed 25 Asian American students from diverse backgrounds, including Filipino Americans, Chinese Americans, and Indian Americans. Examples of racism included patients insinuating that they carried the virus and inappropriate comments about their heritage. Students also described feeling invisible because they were often mistaken for peers or simply generalized as Asian. They also expressed concern about the lack of representation of Asian American experiences in medical curricula. The study found that this exclusion, combined with persistent racism, led some to feelings of isolation, fatigue, and even suicidal thoughts. The study recommends creating a more inclusive learning environment by acknowledging the differences among Asian ethnicities in admissions. It also suggests increasing the presence of Asian Americans in leadership and mental health positions. We're bringing more news stories after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. House Representatives Pramila Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Judy Chu, and Andre Carson have introduced a resolution recognizing the devastating impact of the September 11th attacks. They noted the subsequent rise of racism, xenophobia, and prejudice faced by the Arab, Muslim, Middle Eastern, South Asian, and Sikh communities post 9/11. Jayapal emphasized the severity of the September 11th attacks and the challenges faced by certain communities since. Omar reflected on how the attacks permanently changed America and how certain communities suffered undue suspicion and harassment. Tlaib pointed to the persistent racism and xenophobia faced by these communities. Chu discussed the government's role in reinforcing post-9/11 prejudice, and Carson called for healing and support for the Muslim American community, which has faced increased hate crimes and discrimination. The resolution includes several measures to assist those affected. It calls for forming an interagency task force to work with community-based organizations to reassess and correct unjust policies. It recommends hosting hearings to discuss the findings and recommendations of the working group. The resolution also calls for providing funding to community-based groups to prevent hate crimes and assist victims. It also recommends working with health organizations to study the impact of discrimination and government policies on physical and mental health. 1 month after the September 11th attacks, over 900 acts of discrimination and attacks were recorded against Americans perceived to be from the Middle East or South Asia. The post-September 11th environment resulted in inappropriate government scrutiny characterized by improper detentions, deportations, and violations of constitutional rights. The Department of Homeland Security has opened an investigation into the prosecution of migrants from Muslim-majority countries. That was triggered by a Los Angeles Times report that found more than 60% of migrants charged under an obscure law in an 18-month period were from Muslim countries. During that time, which began in late 2021, federal prosecutors in Del Rio, Texas, charged more than 200 migrants under the rarely used legislation. Under it, people entering the U.S. must report to a customs office. According to the Times report, the use of the law was discontinued shortly after the newspaper provided government officials with preliminary data. The DHS investigation will focus on whether U.S. Customs and Border Protection disproportionately targeted people from Muslim countries when referring migrants for prosecution. Advocacy Director for the Council on American Islamic Relations, Corey Saylor, says such practices not only undermine the moral fabric of a society, they damage a nation's reputation on the global stage. On the 30th anniversary of the first Oslo Accord this week, Palestinian groups gathered in Gaza calling for the rejection of the agreement. The first Oslo Accord was signed September 13, 1993, by the Palestine Liberation Organization and Israel. The historic agreement aimed to end years of conflict and establish a temporary Palestinian authority. It also paved the way for the creation of an independent Palestinian state by 1999. The aim was to achieve a just, lasting, and comprehensive peace between the parties. But at this week's gathering, hundreds of Palestinians, including leaders of resistance groups in Gaza, emphasized that the Oslo Accords only serve Israel's interests. The special day also coincided with the 18th anniversary of Israel's withdrawal from Gaza. On September 12, 2005, under the leadership of then Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, Israel executed a unilateral disengagement plan, withdrawing settlers and armed forces from Gaza. More than 600,000 Afghans have arrived in Pakistan in the 2 years since the Taliban regained control of Afghanistan in 2021. UN High Commissioner for Refugees spokesman Qaiser Khan Afridi told Anadolu news agency Pakistan is already hosting more than 1 million Afghan refugees. They hold proof of registration cards issued by the government. Over the last 2 years, more than 16,000 Afghans have returned to Afghanistan through the UNHCR-facilitated voluntary repatriation program. Afridi says Afghan refugees legally living in the country and whose refugee registration cards expired in June are working with local authorities to extend them. In 2017, the Pakistani government issued a one-time Afghanistan citizen card to about 880,000 refugees, which expired this year. Afridi said a positive decision from Pakistani authorities will provide relief to Afghan refugees experiencing uncertainty and anxiety due to the expiration of their cards. Before August 20, 2021, Pakistani authorities estimated 500 to 600,000 Afghans lived in the country. The Egyptian government has banned the wearing of the niqab, a full face veil, in public and private schools. The ban takes effect the coming school year, starting September 30th. Muslim groups in Egypt have strongly opposed the decision. Education Minister Rida Higazi clarified that while schoolgirls can wear the hijab to school, they should not cover their faces. A Ministry of Education official told the New Arab this decision is aimed at preventing fraud, identity theft, and other crimes. The source stressed it is difficult to identify female students with their faces covered, which in the past has led to problems such as impersonation during exams. The dress code for Egyptian women has been a controversial issue in recent years. In 2020, a court declared the niqab inappropriate for academic staff at Cairo University. Nadia Al-Khoun, an interdisciplinary artist, genetic engineer, and biotechnologist, will unveil the Islamic-inspired exhibit at her Nadia Na Art Gallery this weekend in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The event emphasizes diversity and inclusion, featuring contributions from Muslim and non-Muslim artists. The gallery is located in a 120-year-old building in downtown Milwaukee. Al-Khoun's education in biotechnology from Jordan University of Science and Technology and a degree in fine arts from University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee have influenced her artistic style. Her artworks are abstract, inspired by biology, capturing the unseen world's complexity and connectivity. The gallery's goal is to highlight artists who have chronic illnesses, merging the fields of medicine and art. Proceeds from the exhibit will benefit the Islamic Society of Milwaukee. Future exhibits will support the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition. The opening reception takes place this weekend, and the exhibit runs through October 21st. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.